大家晚上好，欢迎大家来到国际培训大咖50谈，我是顾立民。绩效改进是一个非常热门的话题。那么，绩效改进自从它建立这个概念的第一天起，从1962年国际绩效改进协会建立以来，就遇到了一个很大的问题。那么这个问题呢，就是如何持续的为企业、为组织、为企业持续的创造系统性的价值。特别是在当前新的大的环境下，企业想长久持续的发展，绩效改进在这当中将起到什么样的作用？国际绩效改进协会作为绩效改进方面最专业的这个协会，那么将在这样的征途上为企业、为组织创造什么样的价值呢？那么今天晚上我们就非常荣幸的请到了国际绩效改进协会，就是 ISPI 国际绩效改进协会主席 Dr. Nancy Burns 南希·伯恩斯博士来为我们进行具体讲解。好，我们下面有请 Nancy。Hi, Nancy. How are you?
Morning. Good evening, George. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so glad to have you on the Training Master Series.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And thank you for accepting our invitation. We're so glad. And for our audience, would you please introduce yourself and tell us where you grew up and where you went to college and what you studied, and tell us where you live and work now.
All right. Well, I am Dr. Nancy Burns, and I am the current president of ISPI and also president of Crane Burns Associates. And I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. I really love small business. I worked in my grandmother's perfume shop. She made perfume when I was a child. My grandfather was a watchmaker and jeweler, and the perfume shop is actually still in existence after 175 years. The original owner came over from France, so it's just a little bit interesting background. I did move around the United States with General Motors Financial Services, and I worked in Tulsa, Indianapolis, and then Detroit. I worked in headquarters for about 18 years and worked in our management and technology departments. I went to college when I was working full-time to Northwood University in Michigan, and I studied business management, computer information management, and got my master's in business management from Northwood. And then I went to Capella University in Minnesota, where I got my doctorate in business and organization and management. So from there, I now live in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, on the Cumberland Plateau in Crossville. It's between Knoxville and Nashville, so for those who are looking at a map.
Great, great. While you were talking, I'm in my mind's eye, I'm kind of trying to mapping out the entire continental United States. You're here, you're there, you're almost everywhere.
I went quite a few places.
Right.
And we thought Tennessee looked like a peaceful place to retire, but as you know, I'm not really retired. So, but that's where we are now.
We all don't always retire. And you and I, this interview is a little bit special for me, for both of us, because you are the president of our team, of our board, and I am on the board. So we're in the same team, and under your leadership, you're leading us. You're leading ISPI to a new chapter, and of course, you and I have been in this in ISPI in the performance improvement field for a long time. But just for our audience, can you tell us what ISPI is and its brief history and what it does and what it values?
Well, I love ISPI, first of all, let me say that. And it has been in existence since 1962. And we believe in helping people and organizations be better. So overall, we want to let everybody know that being better matters. And we really do help people and organizations make a difference. So our primary goal is really to make a difference in the world, whether it's at the individual level, the team level, the organization level, and really the world level. And you know, Roger Kaufman really promotes doing things at the world level. We want to make a difference in society. So we can improve communities, work. We want to provide tools and strategies that will help people be effective and complete performance improvement in the workplace. So we're all about improving performance. We help our members create a bigger impact and great contributions to society, and we want our world to be a better place to be. So that's really what ISPI is all about.
Great, thank you. For ISPI, to me, I have been regarding ISPI as my professional home ever since the late 90s. And when I was in the United States, I was studying instructional design and performance HPT, performance improvement. So at that time on, I started to know that ISPI is really a voice. Sometimes we call it an authoritative voice in this field. Is that true?
Oh, yes, definitely is true. And I came to ISPI a different path. My brother, Al Crane, went to the Boise State Human Performance Technology program and invited me to go to a conference in Boston in 2003. And that's how I became introduced to ISPI and met all the wonderful people in the Michigan chapter, and the rest is history.
Your story is more like Roger Addison's, Dr. Roger Addison, our own Roger Addison. He is one of the founders of ISPI, and he is he is an accidental founder of ISPI. And what he told me is when in 1962, he was still a college student, and his brother, Don Tosti, the late Don Tosti, the only and the one and only Don Tosti, and asked him, what are you going to do for the summer vacation? He said, no plans. Well, why don't you come with me to San Antonio? And so as a college student, Dr. Roger Addison, he attended the founding conference, the very first founding conference of ISPI, and became, well, as a student and half tourist, but he was there. So he is an accidental founder of the ISPI.
Well, and Dr. Roger Addison has agreed to be one of our historians for ISPI and is helping us look at archives along with Dr. Roger Kaufman, Guy Wallace, and Margot Murray. And so we are very pleased for their contributions to our field.
You bet. They're all ISPI presidents and still very active today. Such as Dr. Roger Kaufman. I interviewed him on this series. He is the second one that I interviewed, and the audience gave a very positive feedback. And now at the age of 89, and he's still thinking very fast, creating societal influences throughout the globe.
Absolutely. That's wonderful that he is still contributing as much as he is. And we definitely thank him and appreciate him.
You bet. And you know, the Chinese tradition is that showing a lot of respect to seniority, and he was the president of ISPI in 1967. That's even a year before I was born.
That's wonderful, George.
Yes. So ISPI has a long history, and in 1962, now, since its founding, but it was not, at the very beginning, it was not called ISPI, was it? It was called NISPI, and later on have gone through a few name changes. Tell us those stories, please.
Yeah, so NSPI was really focused when the thought leaders felt that it was important to promote the idea of programmed instruction. And so many of the thought leaders that sat in the table in Texas when they first formed the society felt that that was really the way to start. And then they realized that we had a more global reach. And so they changed the name to International Society for Performance Improvement. And it really is, it's involved in so many different disciplines. They wanted to take a broader view, spread the news around the world, how we could improve performance. And some of the foundations include behavioral psychology, the organizational development and human resource development. So no matter where you are in your studies, in your work, whether you're in training or psychology or research or business, there is a home for you at ISPI, and that's what ISPI is all about. And so Dr. Roger Addison, in fact, who we were just mentioning, he taught this in the Principles and Practices of Performance Improvement, and I have taught that as well as Brett Christensen and many others. So we really appreciate, again, the thought leaders that started the concepts of the Society for Performance Improvement and making it an international focus.
As a professional organization, how is ISPI structured? How I know everybody probably know that ISPI is member-based, and how does ISPI reach out to the members? How is it structured nationally and globally?
Yeah, so we do have people that work all over the globe. We work closely with Europe, Middle East and Africa, the EMEA organization, and Carol Panza leads that and does a wonderful job reaching out. Our ISPI International headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland, we reach out to our members. We have advocate members in some of the larger companies, and also corporate and organizational members, university members. We care about our members. We want to show value to our members, and we want to do everything we can to help our members feel welcome and included in everything we do. We really want to show that we can provide the resources and the connections that members need to be successful, both on their own and with their clients, and to help make businesses better in the workplace.
Well, thank you. As long as ISPI is concerned, we have structures, we have footprints internationally, we have footprints all over the nation. We have chapters to reach out to the students and also academia. So we overcome like both academia and the practitioners world.
Yes, and I wanted to mention too, Latin America, Roger Kaufman and Mariano Bernardes have done a great reach to Latin America. And we have you, George, in China, and Frank Fu working to broaden our ability in Asia Pacific. And so we do have worldwide reaching arms, and really have an interest in promoting the society internationally.
From NISPI, so just to be clear, clarify for our audience that ISPI has changed its name from NISPI to ISPI and then to ISPI again, but the meaning of the letters are different. Let me try it.
Okay, that's fine, George.
Yeah, at the very beginning, it's called NISPI. It's called the National Society for Programmed Instruction, and then it changed to ISPI, the International Society for Performance and Instruction. And then later on in 1995, changed to International Society for Performance Improvement. So the P didn't change, but the I changed from instruction to improvement.
Thank you, George.
How did I do?
You did wonderfully. You know the history, so we appreciate that.
A little bit. I would really look into the I know that ISPI has a huge archives, and those are the treasures and thoroughs that in the future generations can rely on to see where ISPI started, and where, and based on those valuable archives, and then we can determine where we're going in the future. Without history, yes, there's no future,
Absolutely. And we will celebrate our 60th anniversary in 2022. So we're looking forward to that, and we need to continue to celebrate that legacy as we move forward.
Right. So what, because we're a professional organization, it's not hard to mention to our audiences that what type of programs or member-based services that we provide.
Yes, well, we do have certification, so where an individual can show what they have accomplished and how they've applied the principles of performance improvement. We have awards that we give out at our annual conference. We have an annual conference where we're able to get together and celebrate each other and our members and provide quality programs where our thought leaders and other professionals will come in and give workshops for our members and guests. We offer professional workshops, so we have a certified performance technologist workshop given by Dr. Judy Hale, who actually created the performance technologist designation. We have a Principles and Practices Institute that Dr. Roger Addison helped create, and we have other programs that we share with our members, including some virtual institutes, some regional symposia. We offer research, the ability to write, publish articles, and that is very advantageous for both business people and academic people. So we do have a variety of services that we offer.
Yeah. So there are also other organizations in the field, such as ATD, the Association for Talent Development, the SHRM, Society for Human Resources Management, AHRD, Association of Human Resources Development, etc., etc. So there are so many professional organizations, and ATD, of course, their size is big, and SHRM is focusing on HRM, and so on and so forth. Every professional organization doing pretty well. So how do ISPI differentiate among so many professional organizations?
Well, thank you for asking, George. And so ISPI, I think, covers a broader perspective than some other organizations. We look at overall view of improving performance and at many levels. And as I mentioned before, at the worker, workplace, and world, we're also very research focused. And I think that's been one of the highlights of ISPI, that we question practices. We look beyond the surface to look at the details involved in some of the different concepts that come up and theories that come up. Our thought leaders really weigh in on some of these activities and give their perspective. So we're very fortunate to have those who have gone before us in the field that are still very active and interested. I think one of the things that I've enjoyed about ISPI is you really are able to meet the thought leaders and speak with them on a one-on-one basis. And I don't think every organization has that intimate friendliness and ability to reach out. It really is like a family to me, the people that I've met at ISPI. So I think we have a lot to offer on a person-to-person level as well.
Yes, I can testify on that, and I can because as a kid, 20 years ago, I was like in the early 30s, and I started to get into this field and attended a couple of the annual conferences, and I got to actually talk to some of the great names that I read, like Gary Romler, like Harold Stolovich, like Don Tosti, and also Roger Charvier, the late Roger Charvier. He passed away a few years ago. And so those are the great names, and they have great works, and they left us great paths for us to achieve organizational goals. And they created a very efficient methodologies which we can still rely on and draw references today. So I can testify for that.
Yes, absolutely. Roger Chevalier, he actually came to Michigan. So we had many of the thought leaders come and give programs when I was at the Michigan chapter. I've been in several chapters as well. You mentioned the chapter structure. And he gave a workshop on management and how ISPI and the principles relate to management. And I really think that's what more organizations really need to hear, that we are all about improving performance in organizations so that their business will be successful. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Oh yeah, he's I always struggle how to pronounce his last name. You know, Chevalier, because it's a French pronunciation.
It's French, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from New Orleans, that's what I remember, Chevalier.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Bonsoir.
Yes.
Bonsoir. Yeah. And that's a good evening. But anyway, bonjour is a good day. And how do you do? Am I doing right?
Yes. I remember a few words I took in high school, so I don't know everything, but I know a few words.
Just one more thing to show off. Je ne parle pas français. Je parle français un peu. I speak very little French. That's it.
Merci, George.
Merci beaucoup. Well, that's very Dr. Roger Chevalier, Chevalier. He actually second time I talked to him was on the phone. It was him. It was he who informed me that I got my CPT, my certified performance technologist, in 2003. Because at that time he was a director for marketing, and I got a phone call from him, and he said, "George, congratulations," and so on and so forth. Because at that time CPT was just launched, and I got my certification in July 2003. And later on, of course, Judy mailed me the big giant glass framed certification. It's very glorious. And of course, later on, I moved, and but it was him who verified. And I asked him, "Could you verify? Are there any Chinese, like anybody from this field, like from China origin, and then certified as a CPT?" He said no. He looked up and looked up and looked up, and then finally he said, "No, George, you're the first one." I was probably within 100, the first 100 people to get certified. I was thrilled.
Congratulations, George.
Yes, thank you. I was 17 years later, and I can accept that. Thank you.
Yes, and mine is up on the top of my shelf. I can't move the camera, but it's up there.
I see that. That's the second frame from the left. That's the one with the little red dot. Actually, that's a red stripe, right?
Yes, correct.
I have exactly that one. Yeah.
And mine is from 2003 also. So we were in a very good year together.
Yes. And we're almost the same. That we joined the board together in 2017. So we're board mate.
Yes, that's right. And it's been a wonderful experience on the board working with you. So thank you for all your contributions there as well.
Thank you. The pandemic, just now you also mentioned that the conference, of course, is probably a pain for all organizations. Not only for all professional organizations, it is a disaster for the world that, the current pandemic, what has brought to us. And so we also moved our conference online. And can you tell us all about the conference and also other upcoming summits and and the advocates meeting, all of that?
Yes, well, we did have to move our conference online. We had initially planned to go to Tucson this year, and so we suddenly had to find a way to move everything online, and some of our board members really did an outstanding job with that, especially Bill Yeager and Stephanie Johnson, so we appreciate that. And I think that it just shows us that we need to continue to be able to be flexible in what we do and how we move forward. And so we are looking at ways to what will we do for the next conference? We really have to watch the world and what's going on and what we'll be allowed to do as far as social distancing and getting people together. I think we'll always have to have an online component, even as we try to move back into face-to-face, because we want to have that human contact. So I think that's very important. But we continue to do our other programs. So we have programs online. I think Dr. Judy Hale will offer another CPT workshop. We also have accreditations offered by Judy Hale. So she will, through ISPI, does accreditations of companies and organizations and universities. And so that is another benefit that we offer. Since ISPI has been a nonprofit for almost 60 years, we do have the ability to accredit, to certify, and to represent these efforts throughout the world. So those are some things that we're doing.
That's great. And also, ISVI has other like meetings as well. And I know that like the summer institutes and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so we had a summer institute last year, and we weren't able to have one this year because of the pandemic again. But Dr. Judy Hale and Lenora Knapp gave an institute on the future of work. We had a regional symposium in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so we do those throughout the years, as well as the annual conference. And we are reviewing right now what will be our next steps in those type of events.
So are we going to have a big celebration for the 60th anniversary, like in 2022?
We are planning to. It's not all done yet, so please offer any suggestions. We'd love input from you and your colleagues. How can we really make this special? We are looking through our archives right now. We're speaking with our historians, and so we really want to make this a way that we can celebrate what has gone before us, and then how we sustain and enhance ISPI for the future.
Right. 60 years is a very big number in Chinese culture, because it's one complete cycle for the heavenly stems and earthly branches, the Chinese old way of calendaring. So it's a big number, 60 years.
Yes, it's nice to know that. So I really would like to hear more about that as we move forward. So I'll call you, George. We'll talk about this.
And yeah, this it is a big number. And Nancy, I want to talk some of the questions that our members have. Some of the questions that my students, my colleagues, my friends raised for performance improvement. As you know, performance improvement has been entered China for 7-8 years or something like that, and has entered China sometime. And the word performance improvement, ever since it entered China, it catches the eye. It caught the eye, caught the attention of all walks of life. I mean, in the business world. And because it is right to their target. And so it's a question in a few folds. One is that if we look at our own, like the word human performance technology, I want to talk a little bit about that. HPT, do we really put a lot of emphasis on human, and then the word technology? Because with this TMS Master Series, and then I interviewed a couple of them, and we different people have different voices. How do we define or redefine, or needs to be redefined? I mean, in the word of HPT. So what's your take on it?
Well, I think it's a great term, actually, and I've had conversations with Guy Wallace about this. Guy Wallace is, again, a past president, one of our thought leaders, and he explained to me that the human performance technology, the technology aspect, is about the applied science behind everything we do. And I really think it's important to realize and recognize that we don't do anything in a vacuum. We don't just accept theories when they are offered. We really look beyond that. And so if you didn't have humans, you wouldn't have anything. And it's how do we apply that science to improve our performance in the workplace as individuals, in teams, in organizations. So I really like to think in terms of the applied science that we're doing and to show the CPT, for example, certified performance technologist, that person is proving what they've accomplished in the workplace by applying the principles. So it's not that just that you say you've done something, you actually have proof that you've done something, you have proof that you applied the principles, you have somebody who attests that you have applied the principles. So it's a very concrete concept. And that's how I like to look at this, and that really makes me proud to be part of this organization.
There is also the word for PI, performance improvement. So PI and HPT, can they be used interchangeably?
To some extent, I think they can be, but I do think we always want to remember that even if we say performance improvement, we still want to look at that application. And we want to look at the science behind it. So I think it's trying to keep those concepts interconnected, but many people do use the term performance improvement. And I think sometimes you have to understand, what do we mean by performance improvement? It's more on the business side, it's more on the application side, the training side. It's not just a term that it doesn't apply in the same way that some people in the commercial world may apply that term. There's so many different terms on the internet. You have to be careful with that and really keep it business focused, I believe.
Okay, thank you. That really clarifies the perplexation. The other question, the second fold of the question is, there are so many practitioners, learning and development professionals, and they want to know how to become a qualified or competent, capability-wise, how to become a qualified and competent performance consultants. Because for years after I come back to China, from the United States, I come back to China, and then I always I divided the training, learning development function into two stages. Stage one is the learning development. Stage two, you have to upgrade yourself to performance improvement. So stage one and stage two. So that's the next stage you go in performance improvement. And that's where my career path has gone through. So I started as an instructional designer, training training manager, and then I went up to be a performance consultant within Quest, the Bell company in the U.S., where I worked for a couple of years. So I wanted you to tell our audiences how to become a performance consultant.
Oh, well, that is a big question, George.
I know. So tell us short ways and shortcuts. Let me tell you the little story about behind it, because by our rough count, there are about 20 million learning or training related functions or jobs or positions in China, because there are at least 200, there are 700 million, well, no, excuse me, 70 million companies that are registered. Slash that by half and slash that by half again, ballpark figures 20 million. So, and there's so many of them, and they need to get the training done, and also they want to create value for their organization. So they're very eager to learn.
Yes. So learning is important, and I am an eternal learner. I loved being a student. I went back to college while I was working full time, so I really understand people that do that in the workplace. So learning is very important. Training is very important, and I used to really love to go to training classes. I did not necessarily come up as a training consultant. I grew up through the business. So I came through the business in accounting, in operations, in management, and in technology. but I would look at what we were doing in the workplace and always try to make it better. So when I learned about performance improvement, when I learned about ISPI and human performance technology, I thought this is the piece that I needed all along. And so I love training. I love trainers and people who have been able to teach. And I always wanted to be a teacher. So I have that part too. And now I've been a college professor. So I've done that part of the training. But I think to really apply what you learned and really make things better in the workplace, that's what performance improvement is all about. So that is the next step. It's not only learning, it's how you apply that learning after you get into the workplace. And so what I think is important for people to realize as they come into these different disciplines is how do they make it work? How do they really show that it works? And I think that's what performance improvement and human performance technology is all about. And I think you're doing that, George, in reading your chapter in the book that we recently published. You're showing how you can apply in the workplace, and I think that's what this means to everybody, to young professionals coming up. I know you were thinking about how they feel that they're important. They have so much potential in front of them, and they can learn what they need to do through mentors, through people in the performance technology field who are willing to share information with them. I think that's what ISPI has. That's why I fell in love with ISPI, because our members are so willing to share with each other. So does that help, George?
Yeah, of course, of course. I think that's a very good advice to our young learning development professionals. It is a big question. There are many answers, and there won't be any one single answer. Hard to force you to
Yes,
put
absolutely.
such a heavily loaded question just bump on you. And but that's a question I have to ask on behalf of all the young practitioners.
Yes, absolutely. And we need to know what it means. I think that they're searching for meaning. All of us search for meaning throughout our lives. And how do we make a difference? So if you look at our practice and making sure that what we do actually makes a difference to people. Right. So one of the things that I always do is go back and reevaluate and have a debrief maybe a few months later after I work with a client to make sure that it did make a difference and that they're able to put things into practice. And I think that's another thing that we do as performance improvement technologists. We want to really evaluate the success of our program. Mm-hmm. And I think that is another key part of what we do.
Mm-hmm. Nancy, next I want to show off a little bit, but I have a huge collection of ISPI books, and these are from years ago, and they're all different, like the EPSS revised, and these are instructional system design revised, and HPT revised. All these series books, and also there are performance improvement interventions. They are all ISPI publications. You can see they're all old logos, old ISPI logos there, and old ISPI logos there, and performance technologies, and of course, and of course, the one and only Harold Stolovich and Erica Keeps. They edited this book, and this is ISPI book, the HPT handbook. And this is like a big break, another big break. But compared to other breaks, this is just a mini brother. And so all these books are my professional treasures. These books.
Yes, you have a wonderful collection. I think if you look behind me, I think you can see some of those on my shelf as well.
Yes, we all have the similar collections, and I don't know you have these or not, but these are the translated version of that 3 volumes.
I do not have the translated version, so that's wonderful.
Yes, yes. These books are introduced into China a couple years ago. This reset and took us like a team of about 10 people to spend like 3 years to translate. So that's a very big effort. So I want to show you these books that ISBI has been the center of this field of performance field for many years. One of the gravity force is the publications, and many throughout many years, many of thought leaders and thinkers, they have published their books, and I know that you have published a recent book as well. So it's called The Case on Performance Improvement Innovation. So can you tell us a little bit can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, George, thank you for asking, and I will show you, I'll bring the book out in a minute, but first, I was very honored when Dr. Darlene Van Team asked me to co-edit this book, Cases on Performance Improvement Innovation, with her, and some of the books you just held up, Dr.
Yeah.
Van Team was the editor, and she has published many different articles throughout the years, and I met Dr. Van Team at the Michigan chapter when I was a member, but she remembered my name and reached out to me and invited me to do this with her. And it's been an exciting journey because one of the things that we wanted to accomplish was to make this book for an international audience. So the book begins with an overview of human performance technology and improvement that Dr. Van Team had written earlier and then transcribed in a different way for the article for this book. But we intentionally gathered 16 case studies that would appeal to an international audience. So the book includes studies from China, and I wanted to thank you, George, and Ding Wei and Frank Fu for their contributions from China. We have many other universal topics, and we also received accolades from Dr. Roger Kaufman, Dr. Roger Addison, Guy Wallace, Tiagi, and Bill Yanel for sharing their testimonial. So we appreciate that. And here is the book. Darlene was very excited that the book was so colorful. She said the publishers don't always do that with books, that sometimes you get a gray cover, but they must have liked our book, and it does have some really significant case studies. We also have one from Cyprus and from Nigeria, and of course many from the United States, and then one from Hawaii, which is again a little bit different culture. So we have captured a lot of useful information on performance technology in many different industries in this book. So thank you for asking. Thank you for being a part of it.
You bet, it's an honor, and I really like that book cover too because it got a little odometer on in the center of it. It is like one of our models that we mentioned is management dashboard. So so besides this book, I mean, this book is on cases of PI innovation, and innovation is very important because right now technology had advanced, and a couple of weeks ago when I interviewed some time ago when I interviewed Alan Macy, and he said the technology, we agree or not, will be an integral part of our learning and performance efforts. So both learning and performance will be integrated with technology. So my next question to you is, throughout the book or not throughout the book, so what do you see the trend of the performance improvements going?
Well, I think we have to remain flexible. And as we've seen the effect on the world in the pandemic, I know that was another one of your questions, we have to continually be able to reinvent ourselves because we don't know what's going to happen next. And so the more that we can look at, for one thing in the field, I believe we really have to focus on business. I
Mm-hmm.
think business to look at what organizations need to be successful and to create the proper return on their investment is extremely important. And I came from the business world, so I'm very aware of when a company has to look at downsizing or any right sizing, any of the trends that we've seen over the years, consolidating offices. I've lived through that, and so we need to be prepared to help organizations go through that type of change. So I think those are some really important parts of what performance improvement and technology and we as practitioners can do to help these organizations in the future. I think we can also help the world through some of the challenges that we're facing. And as we learn to adapt, we can help others learn to adapt as well. I see a lot of importance in showing the value that we offer to organizations and really looking at how we can help our members, help their clients, and continue to develop success in the world. So that's where I think we need to focus.
Throughout ISPI's history, innovation has been a very big part. And right now, of course, we've gone through many world events and big changes nationally and internationally. Now, this pandemic is a global event. So, how do you predict that? First of all, what impact has it brought to our field, and so how are we going to overcome them?
Well, we see so many organizations going online, converting to online. What we're doing here today on Zoom, reaching across the ocean. And we meet quite often in our board meetings, in our interactions, and we have to be able to meet in this way. We still can bring a human element. We can still see each other. We can we relate to our families. So I've seen your family now, and that may be something I would never have had an opportunity to do. So it's given us new opportunities. Even though it's caused a lot of issues, we have to look at the good side and how do we make the most of what we can do here in a different world. And I think as we help each other and support each other across the world, to me, it's a chance to bring us closer together. And that's what I would like to see, is really for us to focus on how we help our close organizations with improving their businesses, but actually how do we share those ideas across the world? And so I think that's where we can reach out and do more with the membership that ISPI has to offer, but also that we can collaborate with others to make a real difference in our society. And that means the world society too. So
Of course. ISPI has gone through nearly 60, 58 years, full 58 years now, and innovation has been a key factor that supported us to gone through all these years of challenges. Two questions. One is currently, ISPI have mechanism that encourage innovation in the field. I mean, either from consultants or members or academia world, anywhere it comes. So do we still have the mechanism to encourage innovative ways of doing things differently, but for the same result? And secondly, I'll ask the second part question, but the question is, did we, throughout our long history, did we have met any challenges and how did we overcome them? So you can answer both. I mean, either one of them first.
okay, well, let me think about how do we promote innovation first. And so I think, and right now I'm acting as the editor of Performance Improvement Journal as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're
Mm-hmm.
in transition with that right now. Dr. Darlene Van Team has actually come back to help mentor and review our processes. And I believe that you've just given me some inspiration on how we can promote more innovation through the journal articles, bringing in some different concepts from the workplace, broadening our audience for the journal. I mean, our audience, it gets distributed. I don't know what the number of distribution is, so I'll have to go back and look at that, but it does get distributed worldwide. And so to reach out and show that performance improvement journal as a practitioner's way of showing what's been accomplished in different workplace environments, I think that's one real way we can reach out. I believe by people participate, by bringing together the efforts that we have across the world, I think that really gives us the opportunity for innovation, because you don't know where that next new idea is going to emerge. And so if we provide the environment to let that happen, I think that's a great strength that we can offer. And now tell me a little bit more about the second part of the question.
Yeah. The second part of the question is that through ISPI's long history, we have gone through many challenges as an organization. Like different times in the 60s and the 70s and 80s and 90s, and after the millennium and Y2K, and then in the teens. We're now in the teens, and now we're at the beginning of the 20th of the first next 10 years. So we're 2020 now. So we've come nearly 60 years. So tell us some of the big events that ISPI has gone through, and we had those challenges, and we successfully rose up to it.
Yeah, so it's my understanding, and I have not studied all the history, so you and I can talk a little bit back and forth on this, but I do know that when 9/11 hit here in the US, that caused a great societal impact. In the 80s, we had a lot of the financial situations, and I believe that hit not only here, but all around the globe. So every time you have economic downturn or an incident that hits unexpectedly, like a pandemic, like some type of attack on the world, it's going to impact everybody. And so any nonprofit is going to have to deal with those situations and regroup and relook at their strategy and how they move forward in those situations. I think ISPI has had to adapt over the years to many of those different situations. Having sat in on other organizations, association management forums, we're not alone in those challenges and how we meet those, but I believe that we have the right thought leaders, the right innovative people to meet the challenges and to come up with solutions. And I believe that we have to continue to apply our own principles to how we continue to work with those challenges in the world. And I believe that we have done that. I believe that we can continue to improve the way that we do that. And so that's what I think. I don't have any one particular instance that I can refer to right now, but I believe in the history that you've studied, you have also seen some of this innovation take place. And I think what we had to do this year, for the first time in almost 60 years, to bring a conference online within a few weeks, basically, that really shows that we have that flexibility.
We do. You remind me some of the big events that I come through. The 9/11. 9/11 was hit so hardly on the American people, and at that time nobody knows what's going to happen. So, and at the Minnesota chapter, I was the president at that time. The Minnesota chapter, we meet every second Tuesday of every month. So after that 9/11, about a week later, and then it was our time to meet. So we decided, and we asked each other, are we going to meet? Are we going to meet? And they say, yeah, why not? And then we used a very popular sentence at that time. If we change our lives, the terrorists will win. If you remember that.
Very true. I do remember that.
Yes, yes. So we take life as normal, everything just as it was, and don't let the terrorists win. So we kept our meeting, and we pay tribute to those who lost their lives on unfortunate event, and we continue to hit on our subjects and hold the discussions on that evening. But mostly, so we kept on going. We didn't stop because of that event. So that reminds me that I mean the Minnesota chapter, and I guess so many chapters in the United States and the other part of the world have probably gone through the same thing.
Yes, absolutely. And that event, even though it happened in the US, it affected the world internationally because there were so many people from all nations involved in the building, and it was just it hit everyone. And the pandemic is the same. It's hitting everyone. I remember when we first learned that you were going through this in China, and it had not even affected us here yet. And here we are, all going through the same thing, all having the same experiences. And so as human beings and as colleagues, we are able to share that. And I think in spite of the difficulty, it's actually given us an opportunity to conquer the future in a good way.
We shall overcome.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And thank you, Nancy. So second to the last question, I know that your time is very precious, but I do want to ask you a question. You have been in this field for so many years, and if you had a chance to start all over again, what would you have done differently?
Well, my career started in the mailroom, and I moved to the boardroom. So in New Orleans, I was in the mailroom, worked my way up to supervision, to management, and eventually went to executive office in Detroit. And so I was in the boardroom, and I was at a higher level. I learned many lessons along the way. And so I can see that other paths may have been on a faster track. I don't think I would change anything because I've learned so much, and I feel like I've progressed through my career, and I'm happy with where I am. So I have my family. I have 6 children and 10 grandchildren, along with everything else in my career.
Wow!
I don't think I would change anything.
You bet. You bet. So it's a perfect life.
Well, as perfect as it can get. It has challenges, don't get me wrong. There are times that we all go through challenges, but I think I'm happy with where I am.
Great, great. And then because you have such a balanced and expected life, and so do you have any, as a closing comment, do you have any advice to the young practitioners in developing countries and in China as a whole?
I actually really do. And I'm glad you asked that question, George, because in speaking to the young professionals, you can be successful. Start from where you are, find the right professional home, ISPI, find good mentors, ask questions, and I would recommend that you read Dr. Lucy Newman's story in Cases for Performance Improvement Innovation. Dr. Newman is a certified performance technologist who has an inspirational story in Nigeria. And so read that and just think about those who have gone before you, and you too can be successful. So thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Nancy. And I know that ISPI is a very, very, very professional organization, has gone through a long history, and it has come to China and has a great prospects in China. And we do hope that, on behalf of all the professionals in China, that we can get as much help and support and inspiration and aspiration we can get from the headquarters of ISPI. in the
Yes,
future.
absolutely. We want to be there for you, George. So we appreciate the work that you and your colleagues are doing.
Thank you. Thank you. And we wish you all the best, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
That's my interview with Dr. Nancy Burns. During our last hour interview, Dr. Nancy Burns explained to us what performance technology is, how performance improvements can provide systematic value to organizations, to companies in the long run, and also what are the trends and issues that performance improvement is going to run into in the future, and also that we really had a lot of hope that performance improvement will have a lot of a future, bigger future, much, much brighter future in China. Thank you, Dr. Nancy Burns. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your contribution. And thank you for your persistence. Next week, we are going to have the very honor to have Dr. Bob Reeser as our guest. Dr. Reeser is also a professor, but not retired professor. He's one of another old friend of mine, but he's still working, over 70 years of age. He's still working. He's a very well-known professor from Florida State University. So far, we have interviewed a couple of them. They are all big names in our fields, including Dr. Roger Kaufman, Dr. Bob Branson, Dr. John Keller, and also now Dr. Bob Reeser. So next week, we're going to ask him a lot of questions in this field. That is because he has been dedicating himself to a very well-known book. It's called The Trends and Issues in Instructional Design and Technology. We'll ask him why he named ISD IDT, Instructional Design and Technology instead of ISD. And also, we're going to ask him a couple questions around ISD. And also, most importantly, I have another list of questions to ask him because he has been working with a lot of big names. So we're going to ask him some very interesting stories, his interactions with those big figures in our field, such as Robert Ganet, Walter Dick, etc., etc. And also, we're going to ask him about Dr. Bloom, Benjamin Bloom, the creator, the author, the mastermind of Bloom's taxonomy, the very famous Bloom's taxonomy. So until next week, stay tuned. Please stay safe. Thank you, and good night.